Hello, and thank you for taking time to listen to the Apollo Consolidated story. We're a gold explorer based in Perth in Western Australia, and we are looking for a development opportunity at Lake Rebecca Gold Project, which is located in the heart of the Eastern Goldfields in Western Australia. So it's a good neighbourhood. The reason we're excited about this discovery is it's something that's been found well inside a mature neighbourhood. There's plenty of past exploration in this part of the world. There's mills and infrastructure and plenty of opportunities for development that close to the city of Kalgoorlie in WA. It's a classic exploration story where we've found a new deposit in an area that was underexplored, but quite close to some existing indications of gold mineralisation. So I don't know if you can see the cursor, but up into the left-hand side of the screen, underneath some transported cover, there's 775,000 ounces of gold in a fresh discovery, and that will be a mine in our view. A little bit on the corporate history. We are well funded with about $20 odd million in the bank. We'll have a revised number at the end of this quarter. We've actually been in a situation where we've preserved capital quite successfully through selling assets in Côte d'Ivoire. So we've been self-funded to a large extent. We were operating in Côte d'Ivoire. We found gold in WA in late 2017 at the Rebecca project, and that completely changed the way we saw the company, and the shareholders told us that that's the most important project from here on in, and we've been doing a drill out to first resources ever since. So you can see the share price appreciation in the chart there. We've been consistently adding value along the journey. Predominantly high net worth shareholder base, very supportive, been with us for a long time, but more recently we're starting to get quite a bit of institutional interest. The reason we think this thing has got a very high probability of being a mine in the future is it's so close to operating infrastructure, and the neighbourhood is first class for gold production. There's very little impediments to mining gold in this part of the world. It's been done 100 times before. We're at a location that's 150 kilometres to the east of Kalgoorlie on a transport route which is pretty good. It was the haul road and the construction road for a big gold mine called Tropicana to the east of us. Geology-wise, we're sitting at the southern end of a belt of very high endowment called the Laverton Tectonic Zone. You can see the green rocks there are classic greenstone terrain. That's the classic host rock. You can see a structural corridor that runs down that terrain. We're right at the southern end of that belt, and a little bit different. The rocks are a bit unusual, but the structures remain. So the conduit for the fluids that brought the gold in is still very strong. So we've got 1 million ounces, 150 kilometres from Kalgoorlie. That's obviously a very famous destination for gold. Saracen Resources Saracen Minerals, I should say, have an operating gold plant that's 55 kilometres to the northwest of us. There's quite a few words on these slides. I won't bother you with them, but if you look at the image on the right-hand side, it shows this is the magnetic imagery of the area. It shows a lot of small dots there. When we first inherited the project, there were only 160 of these, and they were nearly all at the southern end of the project at a prospect called Duchess and Duke. We've subsequently drilled those to an extent that we've got inferred resources on both of those. But going northwards, there was very little exploration into increasing soil cover, and at the Rebecca deposit itself, this is our new discovery. We've got something that's much bigger and much better. It's a higher grade deposit. And this is the engine room of the entire project. So that drives the development story forward into the future. So mining studies will be based on the Rebecca gold deposit itself, and we see supplemental feed from the two other prospects and anything else we might find. And we're having a fair bit of success elsewhere, and we'll talk to this a little bit later. Now, the important thing about these ounces, we took a conservative approach and we only report what falls inside optimized pit shells. And I'll show you what that means, but that's using typical OPEX costs and an Australian gold price of 2,250. These are the ounces that were optimized into pit shells. So they're commercial ounces to some extent. And it's a conservative way of viewing a new discovery. Speaking of those pit shells, that grey shape you can see on the top left-hand side, that is the optimised shell for the Rebecca deposit. So we only report what you can't see inside that grey shape. The important thing about this resource work, which we put out early at the beginning of the year, was that there's very little information in terms of drill holes below that optimised shell. What it said is that there's mineralisation to the last intercept. So we knew we had a lot of exploration work to do ahead of us, and we've been doing that ever since. In the middle of this grey shape, there's a position or two of very high grade and good continuity and width. That's what drives this pit downwards. It's a big pit. It's a kilometre and a half long and half a kilometre wide, 300 odd metres deep. We might not mine it that way in the future, but that's what optimised into those parameters. Inside that, importantly, there's 11 million tonnes at 1.5 grams for 550,000 ounces of indicated, so it's high confidence ounces. Our view is that these sort of ounces get mined. This is a little bit of animation. I won't let it go for very long, but just shows the, whoops, didn't go at all for some reason. Let's ignore that. Some cross sections of the deposit itself. This is, again, looking at Rebecca from plan view on the right-hand side and in section view on the left. The important thing about these lodes is that they stack up internal to the central part of the pit. Each of them have a geometry that's 10, 15, 20 metres true width. So they've got good volume and they've got nice grade and they've got good continuity. And when you see these in section view, you can see that there's a volume of mineralised material there in those colours to waste that looks very doable in terms of classic open cut strip ratios. There's some of the intercepts on the left-hand side at the most important of the three lodes, which is called Jennifer. Some very sensational widths and grades in there. That drives the economics forward. What we know for certainty is that what optimised inside the pit will also exist below the pit into the depths. So we're starting to examine the exploration potential below that optimised pit shell. So you can see below these grey shapes there, we're getting some very strong intercepts, such as 22 metres at 3.5 grams, 5 at 5, etc. I'll show you some of those. So now back to the long section, that's the optimised pit shell. You can see there, as I bring them on, these are intercepts in diamond drilling. So what we do know from the limited number of holes we've put down since the resource study is that there's mineralisation all over the place. And this will continue to grow as we populate the long section. We've also been doing some very useful RC drilling inside the pit to bring forward some of the inferred ounces into indicated and also fill in some of the knowledge gaps around the edge of the pit. So we've got some good intercepts in a number of locations along the length of this system. That'll change the shape of the pit in the next optimisation work. Now, elsewhere, Duchess and Duke have received a lot of drilling this year, so we're looking to bring those inferred ounces into indicated. And the aim of the exercise this year is all about looking for new deposits in the overall system and bringing forward the inferred ounces to indicated, hopefully to get to a point where we've got 700,000 or 800,000 ounces of indicated. At that point, we start to talk about serious mining studies. In the exploration front, with the RC drill rig into the soil cover terrain, we're having a fair bit of success. So looking at intercepts such as these along this contact running between Duchess and Rebecca, and more recently, some very interesting results at something we call Cleo up in the northwest. So the rigs this year will continue to drill ResDef work inside the deposits and also keep building exploration story and hopefully some new ounces elsewhere. It's beautiful rock. It's classic Goldfields Terrain. It's a disseminated sulphide system in actually a granodiorite. Nice, beautiful looking ground conditions. Metallurgy looks like it's 93%. We expect a fair component of the gold to fall into a gravity circuit. We've got some terrific hidden value in the company. It's a royalty over 1 million ounces in Côte d'Ivoire. It's owned by Roxgold. It's a TSX listed company. Please familiarise yourself with that project. It's growing, it will be a mine, and that royalty will be very valuable. So that's us. It's a company that we're squarely based in the Goldfields of WA these days. We've taken a very conservative approach to what we've found. The engineers and the resource geologists that look at this have formed the opinion that this will be a mine in the future. We agree with them. We know we can make it bigger through drilling, and we're starting to show that this year. The metrics on an ounce basis is certainly compelling. We think we're at the low end, and we're one of the few that actually look at pit constraining their ounces. So stay with us for the journey. We've got plenty of funding, so we won't bother shareholders for new funds this year. We plan to revisit the resource statement towards the end of the year, and next year is going to be all about building a team and pushing this project through to commercial development. Thanks very much. Look forward to talking to you later on. Cheers.